I'm Dr. Deepak Chopra, and with me is Jean Houston. We are in the midst of a course right now on archetypes, so I always take the opportunity to tap into her wisdom. And we want to talk a little bit about the future of our world as it relates to the rise of the feminine archetype. So, Jean, I have always related with about 4 or 5 feminine archetypes. Let me just mention a few. Hera, the goddess of power. Persephone, that deals with the underworld. Demeter, mother. Athena, wisdom. Aphrodite, sex, beauty, spirituality. And then Artemis, the one who's in touch with the forces of nature. Do you think if you brought these, 6 archetypes out there, enlivened them in today's age, that there is any hope for humanity? Because look at the big problems we have right now. Conflict, war, terrorism, a planet that is not sustainable anymore by any standard, the way we are moving, economic and social injustice, and half the world obese and half the world undernourished. So nobody's really healthy anymore. Am I kind of wrong if I think that there's hope? Enliven the feminine archetype.
Oh my, such an interesting question. Well, I think that what you were finding with the feminine archetypes is the rising of herself, the rising of she. My claim to fame is the fact that I work all over the world, and I've worked in some 108 countries. And not in all, but in a considerable number. What I find is that the feminine archetype is rising, whether it's in Africa or Asia. I mean, just looking at the Western world. In the Arab world, certainly it is coming up again, rising very strongly. The Mary archetype, many of these archetypes address these problems, don't they?
They do.
I mean, they do. Hera, the power, the family, the community, the remythologizing, the regenesis of the community. Mother, Demeter, Persephone, the underworld, the catharsis of all our old stuff coming out. I mean, Athena, making civilization work, bringing together the world mind so they can really work together. And then I go around the world and I see, what are women doing? And, something that we laugh about sometimes at the UN, that you find out that about 70% of the work is being done by women. I don't mean just in the fields. I mean, they're calling the conferences, they are enacting the programs, they have the gift of the follow-through. Their emphasis is on process rather than on product, making things cohere, develop, grow, relate. In other words, the creation of a world that works. I'm involved right now with some of the most significant women in the world. We're coming together. We're on Skype regularly. We are designing, from the feminine perspective, a world that works. And with strategy and design, these are all people who've been hands-on, sensory-rich, have enormous experience. And because we need a new lure of becoming if we're not going to give up.
So, much of this is emerging by itself right now as part of our evolution.
It is part of the automatisms of the creative process.
How can now the
self-creating work of art?
You and I are talking, and people are watching us on YouTube.
Yeah.
And, with a click, the link to Twitter or Facebook, this conversation can be seen anywhere in the world, right?
Yes.
From Israel to Saudi Arabia. I recently gave a lecture in Bahrain, and there were a lot of women there who had come from Saudi and all these countries. And, you and I, at least through the press, have a very different impression of women in these countries. But actually, I was totally surprised. There were neurosurgeons, there were artists, there were novelists, there were technologists. And they came in veils, but then they took off their veils, and the conversation was as intelligent as any.
Yes.
Now, because there's a global brain emerging through the social networks, could we kind of accelerate this, accelerate feminine power, the mother energy, the beauty, the intuition, the nurturing, the tenderness, but at the same time, the power of a Hera? If we created something like this in the world, maybe there is hope for civilization.
Well, maybe these archetypes are real. And maybe they arise at the times when they're deeply needed. I mean, when we first saw the Earth from outer space, we were stunned. We were called into a kind of reverence that we had not had before. Suddenly she was there, our mother, Gaia. And then we looked out, there were no wars, there were no separations. It was this incredible...
No boundaries.
No boundaries. The planet herself in her blue and silver and green floating in the cosmos, the womb of the cosmos. And we felt that we had come home. And I remember being in China at that time, it was around 1981, 82. And I was present when a peasant pulled down the picture of Mao Zedong and he put up in place the picture of the Earth from outer space. So I think that the Earth, the Gaia archetype, is the overarching archetype for Hera, the family, the power, the creative power, for Artemis, the wildness, the care for the ecology, for Aphrodite, for the need for the loving, heartful connection between all people and places, for Athena, who really sees how we can begin to create a world civilization in which there is very deep justice for all people.
And expand our identity.
And expand the identities too.
Go beyond national,
ethnic,
racial,
tribal, into becoming, as I said, we are world people. And this is the first time in human history this has happened, but it needs the spiritual ignition to truly make it happen.
So if you're there in Egypt right now, or you're there in Saudi Arabia, or you're there in Eastern Europe, Russia, China, or anywhere in the United States or India, why don't you organize a community that activates the feminine archetype, and get in touch with Jean? Or how do we contact you through the internet?
They can find me at jeanhouston.com.
I think we can organize a world movement.
Well, let's organize a world movement. Why not? Today, this is what we'll do.
Movement, the rise of the feminine archetype to create a new civilization. How about that?
How about that, indeed.